All right. Well, today I'm going to talk a little bit about making your comics and the types of tools that you might need to use in order to effectively create a black and white ink drawing that we typically see used in comics. So I've laid out some of our materials that we might use today. So some options. So you'll need some paper, obviously. So I'll talk about that first, and I'll kind of go through the different things you might need to have. I have some regular computer copy paper here, which I'm going to use to like test out my pens and figure out which lines I need where. And then I have my heavier weight actual art paper. And this is what I would recommend. This came from out of a sketchbook, and I just kind of cut off the side there. I would recommend something a little heavier weight than just normal copy paper, simply because you are going to need to do some drawing and then erasing in order to create an effective black and white ink drawing. So regular copy paper doesn't hold up very well to a lot of erasing. I would recommend something a little bit heavier if you have access to it. So this is what I'll be actually drawing on, and this is what I'm going to be kind of testing my pens on. In addition, you will probably need a straight edge or a ruler. If you plan on having any kind of circular shapes in your comic layout, I would recommend just kind of a lid of some kind that you can trace to get a perfect circle. And this could be any size. I just chose kind of a medium size here, but if you wanted something a bigger circle, or if you need smaller circles for that kind of zoom in effect, if you're going to use circles, use a lid so that it's a nice looking circle, and same thing for straight lines. Use a ruler so that they're actually straight and don't get all crookedy and wonky unless you want them that way. But then it needs to be used kind of for effect, some kind of shock effect or what have you. So it should look very intentional. So straight edge if you're wanting straight lines. Going on to the types of materials that we have, you are going to need different widths of black. It should be the color that we use to do the inking. But before we get to that part, we're going to talk about just your pencil. You are going to need a pencil. Ta-da! I have a thicker drawing pencil. That's what I like to use, but any kind of pencil will work. The most important thing, though, is you are going to need some kind of eraser that erases cleanly. Pink pearl erasers can work pretty well, but I would not trust the erasers that are on the back side of your pencil. More than likely, these erasers are not very good. Sometimes you can often get erasers that do work well, but test it on your practice sheet before you start erasing on your paper, because it's very difficult to get those like pink smudge smear messes that happen with cheaper erasers. So to alleviate that, I would recommend some kind of white soft eraser or a pink pearl eraser. I don't have one of those to show you, but a separate eraser from your pencil will do a better job of doing those kind of big gesture erasers. So I have one that's kind of at a pen shape that I like, and then there's also like your standard white one that works too. So you can kind of pick what will work better for you. For this project, you are going to need some kind of pen to do your inked lines after you've done your drawing. So in this case, I have several different kinds of pens here. One is a Sharpie marker, one is more of a calligraphy type of marker that has two different ends, more of a brush tip and more of a felt tip. And then I have some pens of different sizes. Something you probably didn't know about pens is that they come in different sizes. So if you look really closely on the label, you'll see that there's a different number associated with it. So this is a 0.7. This one is, if we read it, is also a 0.7. And this one is a V5 or a 0.5. Oopsie. So that one is our most fine. So if you just kind of test out some of the pens that you might have access to. Now this one seems like it might be running out of ink, or it doesn't work so well on my table. But it's a very, very fine line versus 0.7s are going to be a little bit thicker and are going to be a little bit smoother. So do some playing around with the kind of pen that you're using. So in this case, because my 0.5 is running out of ink, I won't be using that. So I'm going to put that one away. But either of my 0.7s will work just fine. In addition, you should have a thinner line and a thicker line. So if that means a 0.5 and a 0.7 for you, or if a 0.7 and some kind of marker, that would be fine too. Because when we do lines, we want to have a variety of thickness. It gets really, really boring if they're all the same thickness. So different kinds of markers can offer different kinds of lines. So just kind of think about what you have available to you and using those in an interesting way. So I'm going to go away now and sort of do my quick sketch on my paper for my comic, and then we'll come back and we'll ink this together.